Welcome. This channel is dedicated to your spiritual growth. Tune in each day to stay grounded amidst the ever-changing complexities of life. Let's embark on this journey together.
All right, ready to dive deep today? We're exploring this video all about spiritual growth and enlightenment.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah, and it's from like a Buddhist perspective.
Okay.
And the idea that really got me was this phrase, fuhuhucha,
Oh, wow.
which translates to others are you.
Mm.
Like, have you ever heard that before?
I've heard similar phrases, but not that exact one.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, right?
Others are you.
Yeah.
That's a lot to unpack there.
It really is. And this video uses that phrase as like a jumping off point to talk about all these different ideas, like our sense of self and how we see the world.
Yeah.
And how we might even achieve liberation.
Oh, liberation. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Sign me up.
So it's basically saying, like, how I perceive other people,
Mhm.
that's all just a reflection of me.
Yeah, that's the basic idea. It's like the world is this giant mirror,
Oh, wow.
you know, reflecting back at us our internal state.
Okay.
Like, remember that example from the video about
Yeah.
judging someone as stingy? Oh, yeah.
It was saying, maybe that's actually more about, like,
Yep.
our own hang-ups about material possessions than it is about the other person.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
Interesting. So it's not so much about them out there. It's like about what's going on inside of me.
exactly.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
So how does that get us to liberation?
Right. Or so the video says a lot of our suffering comes from this illusion of separation.
Oh, interesting.
This idea that we're like fundamentally different from everyone else.
So we're not all just like little bubbles bumping around.
Yeah, it's like we think we are, but
Right.
we're not really.
Okay.
And if we can crack that illusion, if we can see how interconnected we all are,
Yeah.
that's a big step toward liberation.
Okay, so what's fueling that illusion then?
Oh, good question. I think you can probably guess.
Lay it on me.
The ego,
Of course.
that small self.
Right, right.
And tied into that tadoff,
Mm.
which means like self-attachment. And the video is saying that's like the root of all suffering, according to Buddhist teaching.
So clinging to this idea of me, my ego, my desires,
Yeah.
that's what's actually making me miserable.
That's what they're saying, yeah.
Mhm.
And I kind of like this analogy they use. You know how they were talking about desires being like hooks?
Yeah, yeah.
Every time we grab onto one, we're just hooking ourselves deeper into suffering.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
That's a powerful image.
it is.
So then how do we get unhooked?
Well, that's what we're going to get into.
Yeah.
But the video outlines this path that involves cultivating 3 key practices.
3 key practices.
Yeah, and they're all about shifting our perspective and how we relate to ourselves and the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm all ears.
So the first practice is awareness of what the video calls the separating mind.
The separating mind.
Yeah, it's about becoming really conscious of those moments when we start judging people or labeling them.
Oh.
You know, the times when we're building walls between us and them.
Mhm. So like catching myself when I'm having those like, that person is so thoughts.
Exactly. It's like pausing in those moments and being aware of those thought patterns that are creating separation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Mindfulness of judgments is step 1.
Uh-huh.
What's number 2?
Embracing the present moment.
Okay, what's that mean?
So that means accepting whatever experiences come up,
Okay.
good and bad, pleasant, unpleasant.
So no more dwelling on the past or worrying about the future.
Right.
Just being present with what is.
Yeah. And cultivating peace and acceptance, even when things are tough.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Mindfulness of judgment, embracing the present moment.
Uh-huh.
What's the third one?
This one's maybe the most challenging.
Yeah.
It's observing the empty nature of the small self.
Empty nature of the small self.
Yeah.
That's a little abstract. Can you
Oh, yeah.
break that down for me?
It means recognizing that our thoughts, feelings, even our sense of self, aren't as solid and fixed as we think they are. They're more like waves, rising and passing in the ocean of consciousness.
So it's like recognizing that the I that we cling to so tightly,
Right.
it isn't really so concrete. It's
Yeah.
constantly changing and evolving.
Exactly. And by observing this, we start to loosen the grip of self-attachment
Okay.
and realize we're not just our thoughts or feelings.
Okay.
There's something much bigger and more expansive going on.
That's a big shifting perspective.
It is.
So does the video say like how we can actually observe that empty nature?
Yeah, they touch on a few techniques and practices.
Okay.
Maybe we can get into that a little bit later.
Sounds like a plan. So we've got 3 practices to explore further.
Yeah.
Awareness of judgment, embracing the present moment, and observing this empty nature of the self.
Right.
Lots to think about.
It is.
I'm ready to dive in though.
Good.
What else did the video say about this whole Herger idea and like how it applies to our lives?
One of the coolest things I think is that they talk about how this shift in perspective,
Mm.
this understanding that others are, you can actually transform how we see the entire world.
Whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
I got to process that for a second.
Yeah.
Changing how I see myself could change how I see everything.
That's what they're saying.
That's a bold claim.
It is.
Okay, let's take a moment to absorb all of this and then come back.
Okay.
And explore how these practices can change our perception of the world.
Sounds good.
And help us move towards that liberation.
Yeah.
This is getting really interesting.
I agree.
Okay, we'll be right back.
All right. So before the break, we were talking about how understanding beer can, like, transform how we see the world.
Yeah, that really got to me. It's a big claim to say that changing how I see myself could somehow change how I see everything.
It is a big claim.
Yeah.
And the video gets into how, like, our attachment to the ego, to that small self, keeps us stuck.
Yeah.
You know, in a certain way of seeing things.
Uh-huh.
Remember that idea about desires being hooks?
Oh, yeah, definitely haven't forgotten that one.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
So think about it like this. Let's say you're really attached to getting a promotion at work.
Okay.
That desire becomes a hook, right? Creating suffering because you're constantly, like, striving, worrying, comparing yourself.
Yeah, and probably not enjoying the work very much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what if you loosen the grip of that attachment? Even just a little sick. You might start to see your work differently.
Okay.
Maybe you find joy in the challenge or in, like, collaborating with colleagues. You're not just focused on that external validation anymore.
I see what you mean. So by letting go of that specific desire, I free myself up to, like, experience my work in a new way.
Exactly.
Okay, so how does that connect to the whole others are you thing?
Okay, so imagine applying that to, like, your interactions with your colleagues.
Okay.
Instead of seeing them as competitors, what if you saw them as reflections of yourself? You know, each with their own strengths and struggles.
That's a pretty different way of looking at it.
It is.
I guess it would make it harder to get caught up in all that comparing and judging.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And as you practice those three principles,
Right.
you know, awareness, acceptance, and letting go, that kind of transformation becomes more natural.
Okay, so we keep coming back to these three principles. I'm really intrigued by them.
Yeah.
We've talked about the first two, but how can I actually be more aware of those separating thoughts?
It's really all about paying attention, you know, noticing those little judgments that pop up.
Okay.
Like you're stuck in traffic, someone cuts you off. What's your first reaction?
Probably not very nice thoughts about that driver, to be honest.
Right. Totally natural.
Yeah.
But in that moment, can you pause to take a breath and just observe that judgment without getting carried away by it?
Okay.
Maybe even ask yourself, why am I reacting this way?
Okay.
What does this tell me about myself?
So it's not about, like, suppressing those thoughts. It's more about creating space around them.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's where embracing the present moment comes in.
Right, right.
So instead of getting caught up in that jerk who cut me off,
Yeah.
can you bring your attention back to your breath,
Okay.
to, like, the sensations in your body, the sights and sounds around you?
So I'm choosing to focus on what's happening right now instead of the mental drama.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as you practice this, you'll find that you're less reactive,
Okay.
less caught up in the push and pull of your thoughts and emotions.
Less mental drama sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about that third principle, observing the empty nature of the self? Any tips for that one?
It is a little more subtle, I'd say.
Yeah.
The video suggests starting by, like, paying attention to how impermanent your own thoughts and feelings are.
Okay.
Notice how they change, you know, arising and passing away like clouds in the sky.
So instead of identifying with them, I'm just watching them go by.
Yeah, like you're watching a movie. And as you do this, you might start to notice this, like, spaciousness inside yourself. This sense of not being limited by those thoughts.
So I'm creating some distance between myself and all that mental chatter.
Yeah.
And seeing it for what it is, just thoughts.
Exactly.
Okay.
And as you do that, those hooks of desire,
Right.
they might start to loosen their grip. You know, you're not as defined by your wants and needs anymore.
Yeah.
And that can really change how you experience the world.
That's incredible. So by practicing these three principles, I'm not just changing how I see myself, I'm changing how I experience reality.
Exactly.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around this whole EdCon concept.
Yeah.
But it's definitely making me think differently about my relationships and, like, my place in the world.
Yeah.
What else did the video have to say about this idea?
Well, one of the most thought-provoking points, I think, is that this shift in perception, it doesn't just benefit us individually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It can actually create positive ripple effects in the world.
Now, that's a bold claim.
It is.
So how can my individual transformation impact the world around me?
Okay, so think about it. When you're caught up in self-attachment,
Right.
your focus is really narrow.
Okay.
It's all about me and my needs and my desires.
Which can lead to a lot of suffering.
Exactly, not just for ourselves, but for others too.
Right, yeah.
But as you start to let go of that small self, as you see yourself and everyone around you, your capacity for compassion and empathy just naturally expands.
So by healing my inner world, I'm also becoming more sensitive to the needs of others.
Exactly. And the video uses this great analogy of a pebble being dropped in a pond. You know how the ripples spread outward, touching everything in their path?
So my own transformation, even if it seems small, it can create these ripples of positive energy that go way beyond myself.
You know, imagine a world where more and more people are operating from this place of interconnectedness rather than from fear and scarcity.
It's a nice thought, but also a little daunting. Where do I even start?
Well, the video reminds us that even small acts of kindness and compassion can make a difference. A smile, a listening ear, a helping hand. These little things, they can create a ripple effect, inspiring others to do the same.
So it's not about saving the world all by myself.
All right.
It's more about being the change I want to see.
Yeah, exactly.
In my own little corner of the world.
Exactly.
Right?
Okay, I like that.
And the more we practice those principles of awareness, acceptance, letting go, the more naturally they'll show up in how we interact with others.
This has been a really thought-provoking deep dive.
It has.
It's challenged me to look at the world and my place in it in a whole new way.
It's a journey, not a destination.
True.
And as the video says, we're going to stumble sometimes.
We'll fall back into old patterns, but the key is to just keep practicing.
Keep learning.
Keep learning. Keep expanding our compassion and understanding.
You know, one thing that really struck me about this idea is that it changes how we think about self-improvement.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's not about being a better me in isolation.
Right.
It's about realizing that my well-being is tied to everyone else's.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And it really highlights how transformative this concept can be when we see others as reflections of ourselves. When we get that interconnectedness, the world starts to look really different.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I'm feeling both challenged and hopeful.
I like that.
The challenge is to keep practicing these principles, to keep being aware and compassionate. But the hope is that even my small efforts can contribute to something much bigger.
And remember, you're not alone in this.
Right.
We're all in this together, interconnected in ways we might not even realize.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So as you go about your day, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep letting yourself be transformed by this powerful idea.
Of others are you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep embracing the interconnectedness of all things. Okay, so we've really been going deep on this idea that others are you.
We have.
It's made us think differently about how we see ourselves, our relationships, and the world.
Yeah, it really flips the script.
Yeah, and before the break, we were saying that the video suggests that embodying this principle could actually create positive change in the world.
Yeah, it's not just about personal growth.
Right, that's what I'm really curious about.
Yeah.
It's one thing to say that letting go of my ego and embracing interconnectedness will make me happier.
Yeah.
But how does that make the world a better place?
So think about it when you're stuck in that self-attachment. Your focus is really narrow. It's all about me and what I want and what I need.
Which we know can cause a lot of suffering.
Exactly. Not just for ourselves, but for the people around us too.
Yeah, for sure.
But as you start to let go of that small self and you start to see yourself in everyone around you, your capacity for compassion and empathy grows.
So it's like by working on my own inner world, I'm becoming more tuned in to the needs of others.
Exactly. And the video uses this analogy of a pebble being dropped into a pond.
Okay, I like that.
The ripples spread out, touching everything.
So even if my own transformation seems small, it can create these ripples of positivity that go beyond just me.
Right, and imagine if more and more people were coming from this place of connection instead of fear and separation.
It's a beautiful idea, but kind of overwhelming.
It can feel that way.
How do I even begin?
Well, the video emphasizes that even little acts of kindness and compassion can make a difference. A smile, just listening to someone, offering a helping hand.
Little things.
These things can have a ripple effect too.
Okay.
You can inspire others to do the same.
So it's not about me trying to fix everything.
Right.
It's more about focusing on being the change I want to see.
Exactly.
In my own life.
Yeah, in your own little corner of the world.
I like that.
And the more we practice awareness, acceptance, and letting go, the more naturally those qualities will show up in our interactions with others.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
This deep dive has been so interesting.
It has.
It's really changed how I see the world and my place in it.
It's a journey, not a destination.
That's true.
And the video reminds us we're going to mess up sometimes.
Yeah.
We're going to fall back into old habits.
Right.
But the key is to keep practicing.
Keep learning.
Yeah, and keep growing our compassion and understanding.
This idea that others are you,
Yeah.
it really changes how we think about self-improvement.
Oh, how so?
It's not about becoming the best version of myself in isolation.
Yeah.
It's about realizing that my well-being is connected to everyone else's.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It really highlights how powerful this concept can be.
Yeah.
When we truly see others as reflections of ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and we understand that interconnectedness.
Right.
The world looks different.
It does.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today,
Yeah.
I'm feeling challenged, but also really hopeful. The challenge is to keep practicing these principles.
Yeah.
To keep being mindful and compassionate.
Exactly.
But I'm hopeful that even my small efforts can contribute to something much bigger.
And remember, you're not on this journey alone.
Right.
We're all connected, even if we don't always realize it.
That's a good reminder.
So keep exploring, keep questioning,
Okay.
and keep letting yourself be transformed by this idea.
That others are you.
Exactly.
Well, that's all the time we have for today.
It flew by.
It did. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
And until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep embracing the interconnectedness of all things.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you can stay updated with our latest content. May they bring you mindfulness and warmth. Feel free to share the channel with friends. You never know how much it could uplift their life. Until next time.